Good evening, YTPC. Saw Gunner here. This evening I'm smoking some Lane RLP6 in my old beater basket pipe. Now some say that RLP6 is Captain Black original without the propylene glycol. Some people claim that Lane has even said that this is their Captain Black mixture. Now, I've never done a side-by-side comparison, but I can tell you they're very similar. And this is one of my favorites. I usually order this by the pound, so I have quite a bit of it in my cellar. And the local brick and mortar that I go to in San Diego, Liberty Tobacco, they sell this as their house blend. They call it BTCB, better than Captain Black. They advertise it as Captain Black without the chemicals. I don't know. It's good. I like it. It's very close to Captain Black, but I've never actually done a side-by-side. Perhaps that'll be in a future video. This evening, I wanted to share a story with you. This was about something back in my high school days. And it kind of it's a story with a moral to it. So this was during my sophomore year in high school. This was the 1984-85 school year. Yeah, I'm old. But anyway, I was in 10th grade, and I was in my second year of French. Now, in high school, I wasn't a very good student. I didn't like school. I didn't want to be there. Basically, I did just enough to get by. I was just, counting the days till I could graduate and join the military. Excuse me. And since I wasn't a very good student, my parents had me on a weekly report. So I had these, a worksheet that I had to take to all of my teachers throughout the week, and they had to sign off on it and say how I was doing, how I was doing in class and whatnot. And I would have to take that home, and my parents would sign it, and I would bring it back. Well, anyway, as I said, my sophomore year, I was in my second year of French. And the teacher was this elderly lady, Mrs. Williams. She was half blind, couldn't hear very well. She'd fall asleep in class a lot. And we had a test coming up, and I was not prepared for the test. Now, at this same time, in my gym class, we were taking swimming. Now, that works into the story, and I'll get to that. So anyhow, the day of the test is approaching, and I'm not ready for it. So the night before, I made a cheat sheet. I anticipated all the questions that were going to be on the test, and I got a real small piece of paper, and I wrote down some of the verb conjugations and words and stuff. So the the day of the test arrives, and I get to class, and Miss Williams is out that day. There's a substitute. So we have the test anyway. And as I'm taking out the test, I whip out my little cheat sheet, and I'm looking at it, writing, copying down the answers. And I finish up, and I go to turn the test in. And the teacher looks at me and she says, "You know I can't accept your test. You cheated and I saw you." Well, let me tell you, I was in a panic. I knew since I was on weekly report that would come out in the report that my parents read, and I would have been in a ton of trouble. So the next day, I got to school early, and I went straight to Miss Williams' class. And, I pretended to be upset and crying. I was like, "Oh, boo-hoo. Oh, Mrs. Williams, I feel so ashamed. I cheated on the test, and now I feel so bad and awful." Of course, that was an act. But Mrs. Williams was kind of a pushover. And she was like, "Oh, there. That's all right." She said, "It took a lot of courage for you to admit that to me. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm not going to put it in your weekly report." And that's exactly the response I was hoping for. I was like, cha-ching! So, and as I said, in gym class, at that same moment, we were doing swimming. So Friday comes, I take during French class, I take my sheet to Mrs. Williams. She fills it out, doesn't mention anything about me cheating on the test. So here I'm thinking, yes, I got away with it. So I get home like nothing. I go to my room, start messing around. Well, in walks my father. And he says to me, "I got a call from that school today. You want to tell me about it?" Well, here I'm thinking that Mrs. Williams had reneged on her promise and informed my parents over the phone. So I spilt the beans. I just came clean. I said, "Well, Dad, we had a test in French, and I wasn't prepared for it, so I cheated on the test and I got caught." My father burst into laughter. He was laughing so hard I thought he was going to fall over. And he says to me, between laughs, "I got a call from your gym teacher. She was telling me how well you were doing in swimming." He goes, "But you just told on yourself." By this time, I was panicked. I thought, man, I'm really in trouble now. I'm going to get it. But the good news was my dad thought it was so funny that I told on myself. I didn't get punished. So I guess there was a happy ending. So let that be a lesson to you. Sometimes you think you can lie and cheat and get away with it, but it'll come back and get you. Well, that was the end of that story. Now, I just wanted to say, um, since I started recording videos, how many friends I've made at the YTPC. In fact, I even talked to one on the phone the other day. I was like looking at my phone. I was like, is this really happening? So I went from being a guy that was just kind of a lonely pipe smoker, occasionally having a pipe with my son. I had one this morning with him. By the way, it was pretty cool. We were smoking some Father Dempsey, really good. And but I just went from pretty much a guy alone to now being part of a group and having a lot of friends, and it's great. So I would like to encourage a lot of you lurkers out there, make a video, if nothing else, just to say hello and introduce yourself. Become part of the gang. Well, gentlemen, that was my pipe and my story for the evening. I hope you all have a great the rest of your Sunday as the weekend's winding down. And you guys take care, enjoy your pipes, enjoy your beverages, and I'll see you soon. Okay, bye.